It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show! Hey there, everybody. This is the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name is Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey, gang.
And Les Webster.
Hello, all.
Unfortunately, Liz could not be with us this week, but we hope she will rejoin us next week, and Liz, we'll miss you.
She's having a hell of a year.
Yeah, that's pretty much what she told me last week, and I was like, yep, I agree. So, how are you guys doing?
Delightful.
Better than Liz.
Yep, I would agree.
It's a low bar, but yeah.
Well,
Hope everybody out there is doing okay. So what's been going on in your corner of the galaxy?
Well, gosh, I have not had a particularly exciting week at all, which I chalk up as a good thing. So, you know. So I did manage to watch a couple of things. I've been slowly starting to work my way back through the Red Dwarf episodes just for fun, because it's been a little while since I saw them. I'm trudging my way through season 3 right now, which is it's interesting because it's the first season where Crichton was a full-time cast member. It is really funny to see how kind of crude Crichton was at the beginning. But I mean, both in appearance and in Bobby Llewellyn just sort of getting used to the character. It's an interesting way to watch the show for sure, and I've seen it enough times that I mean, I'm not learning anything new otherwise, so I'm sort of kind of watching that and looking for other details that I might have missed over the years. But so that's fun in a very weird and geeky sort of way. Otherwise, I did also watch one documentary this week. Out of Netflix's remastered series, which is like a series of kind of unrelated music-based documentaries. The one I watched was called "Who Killed Jam Master Jay?" And I learned a lot about stuff I didn't know anything about before, because I've never really been a big rap fan. Not even back when Run DMC was a thing, which was a long time ago, really, at this point. But yeah, it was told from an interesting perspective, to be sure. The whole story, and they've never. I mean, it's for all intents and purposes, it's still an open case today. And this is from more than 20 years ago. This was in the 90s that this happened, and there basically have never been any arrests or anything. A lot of people, from the perspective that they kind of told the story from in the documentary, pretty much everybody believes that the cops just refuse to take it seriously. It's just another black man got killed, so what? And it's kind of sad in that regard. But yeah, it's a really interesting story, and a really kind of a sad one too, because he was doing a lot to help a lot of people in his neighborhood, because he was the one who kind of went back to his roots after they kind of broke up. Yeah, so it's a really good documentary. It's a really good story. None of these, I've watched 4 or 5 of these now, and there are no happy stories in these things. So I mean, kind of, if you want to start watching them, be prepared. But it's kind of dark. But there's some really good storytelling going on.
I'm going to have to track those down.
Yep, they just pull up Netflix and search for remastered.
Yeah,
there's a whole series of them.
Yeah, I was about to say, sounds like it's been a pretty impressive series of shows or short films or whatever you like to designate them. But they've been interesting from what you've told us.
Mm-hmm. I'm kind of looking forward to getting into some of the ones where I have no idea who the people are they're talking about. That'll be interesting too, because I've learned quite a bit about people I had heard of before. So now I'm kind of getting close to running out of those, and I'm kind of looking forward to the next one I pick up will probably be something I've never heard of before, just to see how it goes down.
Nice. All right. How about you, Les?
Well, I had a couple things happen. Uh, as you know, Thomas, I went to a baseball tournament this weekend in Frisco, and it had my alma mater as one of the teams playing. Each team of the four conferences appeared. They had one team from the Big 12, SEC, Pac-10, or Pac-12, sorry, and the Big 10. And it was fun to sit through 6 games in 3 days. So I was tired of sitting, that's for sure. Every once in a while, you may hear the chair here back up because I need to stand up for a few minutes. But that was fun. I also went on Netflix, and I think maybe Mike has talked about this before, but I went to one of their documentaries about Hedy Lamarr, and it was fascinating to find out about this woman and what she had accomplished outside of her acting. So it was fun to find out about Hedy and how she helped the war effort by devising a code system for submarines where the submarine and its torpedo would not be jammed like the Nazis had found, but it would intermittently change the frequencies, just split seconds, to make sure that the torpedo was headed the right direction. And that saved a lot of ships then, because the torpedo, or it not saved ships, but it sent a lot of ships down because the torpedo wasn't being electronically blocked and could make its way to the target. Unfortunately, she did not get credit for it, but they told you about it. They showed how it was perceived and how they tried to get a patent on it. But somebody decided that, hey, this is a good idea. We'll shove her idea to the side, and then we'll come up with it. And it was not right, but it's a good documentary to watch. If you get the chance, find it and take your hour and a half to watch this, because it is fun.
Yep, I do remember that one. That was really good. Again, another not necessarily happy story. She did not have a great life. Part of her whole deal with all the science and engineering stuff, the inventor. She was an inventor basically.
Yes.
Was she would do that basically when the rest of her life got her depressed to the point where she could barely function. She would just sort of wrap herself up in something else, which was just going out into her workshop and doing stuff, puttering around, coming up with things. So, yeah, another really good documentary though.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I definitely need to check that one out. For me, not a whole heck of a lot. If you remember last week's episode, I talked about being interested in getting into the old Marvel superheroes role-playing game system again, trying to see if that's something I might want to play again and all that. So I've been kind of trying to reread the rules and all that, and I accidentally came across something that was really cool, and I actually shot a link to Mike saying, hey, check this out. Someone has put together what they called an Omniverse Classic Edition source book. It's a gamer's handbook. And it's over 900 pages of characters that you can be able to use in this system. Yes, Marvel characters, but there's also DC characters. And characters I couldn't believe that he even thought about putting in the system. Les, would you like to play like the creature of the Black Lagoon? I've got the character sheet here.
Wow.
Nice.
Gamera is in here.
Oh, jeez.
You can play the different versions of the Alien. You want to play the Alien Queen? You want to play the Alien Predator hybrid? You want to play Dirty Harry? You want to play Indiana Jones? I mean, it's in here. This thing is very impressive. And the guy who put, I assume he put this all together. And if he did, I'm impressed because the layout, he obviously got the template layout from the old Marvel handbooks from the 90s or the 80s, and Mike, you might remember that, how it looked. Mm-hmm. And he was able, he put in all the information and was able to get images and put them on there, and it looks great. So it's been kind of fun looking at these and kind of going, oh wow, that has not hurt my desire to play the system, because like, oh, I want to do that. But it's really cool. We'll have a link in the show notes if any of y'all are interested in at least checking it out. Like I said, just all these different characters. I mean, Star Wars characters as well, Star Trek. There's 2 versions of Michael Myers from the Halloween films. You got the original, and then you got Rob Zombie's remake. I mean, it just...
Dang.
Yeah. It's different versions of Godzilla. I mean, if you think about it, there's a good chance it's in this system, or in this handbook. It's pretty impressive.
So
that is impressive.
So you said Star Wars characters, so they have Darth Vader?
They have Darth Vader and Anakin Skywalker.
Do they have Batman?
Yes, Batman's in there.
Because this will allow people to finally get a good handle on that age-old argument.
Oh, yeah, Vader versus Batman. Yep, there you go.
Just a thought.
Mm-hmm. Hell, you can even play Freddy Krueger if you want to.
Dang.
If you want to. Oh, and this would be perfect for Les. He could play the 1976 version of King Kong.
Thanks a lot.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I already gave you the creature from Black Lagoon. I mean, what else do you want?
That's impressive. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
I didn't even play those games, but that sounds like something I'd like to look into.
I kind of figured you might. Maybe we might be able to put together some kind of a group. Alrighty. Before we get into this week's discussion, I want to remind everybody about our upcoming Meet and Gab, which is Saturday, March 14th at 7 p.m. And if you're not familiar with what our Meet and Gab is, it's happens every second Saturday of the month. We usually meet up at a place. We've usually been Wing City, and I can get you the address here in a minute. But it just gives us opportunity to kind of hang out with you and have some great conversation and have some great food. And like I said, we do it at Wing City. The address is 1456 Beltline Road. That's in Garland, Texas, 75044. So if you go to the website, www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net, and go to the events page, there's all the information there. We also have a Facebook event set up. So if you're following us on Facebook, you can see more information about the meetup. If you're not following us on Facebook, then by all means, please follow us on Facebook. These things are always a blast. We always have fun. So we highly encourage you to come hang out with us. And we also be taking donations for the charity that we're working with, Comic Books for Kids. This charity is providing all ages in teen comics, which are either in new or like new condition, to kids who are in hospitals and cancer centers, to kind of provide a little entertainment and a little diversion from what's been going on in their lives. We do have information on our website. Just go to the CB4K page. You can also go to their website, www.comicbooksforkids.org, to find out more about their mission. You can also make a financial donation if you like to, there on their website. The funds will go to help pay for the shipping costs of comics. They'll be sent across the United States and into Canada to all the hospitals that are part of the network, which literally grows day by day. So definitely, if you can help out one way or another, it would be greatly appreciated. All right, we're continuing our comedy theme. We kind of said comedy month, but I think this is actually going to be a little bit longer than a month, but that's okay. I don't think anybody's going to complain. But for this particular episode, we're kind of doing, not only are we doing that, but it's time for one of our casting calls. We haven't done one of these in a bit. And we're also piggybacking on last week's discussion of Airplane. Hopefully y'all got an opportunity to listen to that. So what we're doing is we are casting a reboot of the old Police Squad TV show. If you're not familiar with this, it came right after the first Airplane film. And it was done by the Zucker brothers and Abrams, the guys who created Airplane and also created the Kentucky Fried movie, which came from the old Kentucky Fried Theater group. And it was a parody of really 70s cop shows. In particular, it was was it Quinn Martin? Yeah, Quinn Martin Productions. Quinn Martin, who was a big TV show producer in the 70s, did a lot of cop drama, and this is kind of a parody. This was a parody of those shows, and it starred Leslie Nielsen, and it only lasted 6 episodes. I think part of it was just nobody got the humor. I think there may be other reasons. I'm not sure when it was actually aired, what the competition was, and all that. But it died a very quick death. But was develop a cult following enough to where they did 3 rather successful movies. So with that said, we were kind of decided to do our own casting call of a reboot. And with that being the groundwork being kind of laid down, who'd like to go first with their choice of, just pick whoever character you want to cast and who's that actor you want to play that role.
Oh, I'll lead off.
Alrighty.
And I don't know that it matters much what order we go in, so I'm just going to go down the list that I've got here.
Sure.
So we're going to start off with Frank Drebin, the linchpin of this whole thing.
Hmm.
The guy, the person who has to fill Leslie Nielsen's shoes, which at this point is not an easy task to take on.
No.
And I kind of, and I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I kind of went into this with the idea, for the most part, that what made Airplane work, because I talked about this last week, was with the casting, it was selecting people who really had a very firm foundation in dramatic acting. I did my best to avoid comedians almost exclusively in this list.
Right.
There are some now. I'm going to name some people, and you're going to be like, oh, they did something funny along the way somewhere. But no,
Right.
not that was not their main focus, except for possibly one person. But
Right.
we'll get there. So anyway, my selection for Frank Drebin is Neil McDonough.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's. I think he's in a kind of. He's kind of got a. I think he looks the part to a certain extent. And yeah, he's done a lot of cop shows and a lot of very serious stuff. I think it would be very interesting to see how he would handle a role like this.
I like it.
Kudos.
Already? Wes?
My premise also is find me a dramatic actor. And I think this guy was pretty much that, especially on a cop show. That's Christopher Maloney.
Nice.
Now, he has done comedy, but to me, he can pull off the dumber than a stick idea of Drebin. I just had a feeling about Maloney.
Oh yeah, no doubt he could do it. And I'll tell you right now, I thought about him, and the only reason I didn't pick him was because of Happy. He was recently working on a series which was he's just playing this batshit crazy person in a batshit crazy cop, and my fear was that that would get imprinted on this somehow. That's the only reason I didn't pick him, because I think he'd be great at it.
Yeah.
Well, I remember him from I'm trying to think if it was a National Lampoon type movie where he was a producer of a movie and his office was in an elevator. So he had people step in to audition for him. And you're going, this is stupid. This is knuck and futz here. But I think that he could handle it.
Yep.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Boy, you guys make my choice seem not so not so good.
Oh, whatever.
See, because my choice has done some comedy. I mean, it's been primarily drama, but he is known as being a smartass at times. And I could just see him saying some of the dumbass lines that they had Drebin do, and be able to get away with it. And I went with Nathan Fillion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you have to go very far. I mean, what was what is the name of the damn show? Castle.
Thinking about Castle? Yeah.
Castle.
Mm-hmm. I was definitely thinking Castle.
It would be interesting to see him kind of flip-flop that role into going from being the smart, I mean, he played a charismatic character. To see him shut that off and basically do the same role would be really interesting. Would be a really interesting test of his acting skill.
Yeah.
So I like it.
Alrighty. Next choice.
Oh, right, that's me again. Duh. I'm awake, really I am.
We're waiting for Liz.
Absolutely. Okay, so Ed Hawken is the next guy on the list. He's the captain. He's Frank's boss, I guess. I mean, it kind of doesn't. I mean, they're obviously pretty good friends, so they don't really seem to have kind of that employee-boss relationship all that much. They're almost more like partners.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ed is a fun character, and the person I chose to play Ed for various reasons is Keith David.
Yeah.
I just think because I mean I've seen him do both serious. I mean he's done a lot more serious because honestly he's done a lot of horror, and people who do horror, interestingly enough, tend to have a really good sense of humor. And I've seen him play straight man before, when other funny stuff's going on around him, and he would be really good at this. And he's also kind of got that authoritative presence. I mean, you see the guy, and it's not hard to envision him being the in charge type.
Yeah, hold on to that thought. Les, go ahead.
For this role, I went with Bill Smitrovich, who actually was on an episode or two of Police Squad. He played the father in one of the first roles I remember was him doing the father on Life Goes On, where they had the son with the illness. And
yeah, that guy.
Yeah. Okay.
and I think that I know he's got the drive for it. He was played a cop on yeah.
That show, that show.
Yeah, that
That
show.
one he was on. Yeah.
Yeah, it was that cop show. So, yeah. With Dennis Farina. So, yeah, I think that Smitrovich was my logical choice for this one.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that's a good one too. Mikey, you and I were kind of in tune. My pick was not necessarily horror per se, but he's done a lot where he of kind of the authoritative. Even if he wasn't, he kind of gave off that vibe. And honestly, I would just love to actually have him say some of the ridiculous lines that, oh God, was it Ryan North was the original one, and then you had George Kennedy in the films. So my choice was Idris Elba.
Wow.
Okay.
I just went, okay, I kind of, yeah. It just, for some strange reason, it popped up, and I was like, I can't remember him doing any comedy, and I think it would be great to have him kind of say some of the dumb stuff that they say in these shows.
Mm-hmm. That would be interesting. That would be very interesting.
That would be stretching his chops right there.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Next, Mikey.
Alrighty. Next up is Norberg. This one is a little wide open because, I mean, obviously you had, oh crap, what was the dude's name? Blanking on his name. You had Peter Lupus.
Yeah, Peter
playing him in the
Lupus.
show, and then they switched it up in the movies by giving it to O.J. Simpson. Well, we obviously can't go that route again, but it gives us a lot of wiggle room. We'll put it that way.
Right.
You can get away with a lot as long as whoever you're putting in there is willing to do some physical comedy. There was a lot less of that in the TV series than they did to, I almost want to say poor O.J. Simpson, because
Right.
they beat that poor guy up in those movies. Norberg was a little more of a little. It was a little more professional. He was clearly just a cop with with the TV series. But so given that flexibility, I actually this is where it bugs me that Liz isn't here, because I went with someone from one of her favorite shows. Just kind of, my plan was to just jabber a little with it just for the hell of it. But I also think he would do a really good job. I went with Misha Collins for Norberg.
Nice.
Oh.
Throw a little supernatural love in there. So there we did it for her. And I think it would be fun to kind of meet in the middle in terms with the role now, somewhere between just sort of the straight man cop and the kind of the physical humor. I think it would be fun to let him do a little bit of the slapstick stuff, but don't go overboard like they did in the movies.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. And when I made my choice, I was thinking closer to the lupus version, because I mean, there's some. You're right. With the films, it was more slapstick. They did more slapstick with the character. It was definitely more physical. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yep.
That kind of helped. That's kind of where I'm making my choice. But Les?
Well, this character, I chose somebody that I want to see slapped around.
Ooh, that's a good way to go.
And that's Chris Noth.
Ah, I love it.
That would be awesome.
I'm sorry, I'm not a real big fan of his. So, yeah, to have the chance to see him get the crap beat out of him, yeah.
Oh, that's an awesome reason to pick him.
Yeah. I love that choice. I wish I had thought of that. I definitely kind of went a different route. Like I said just a moment ago, I kind of went more with the version from the original series than the physical comedy. So I went with someone who I don't recall doing comedy, and I may have missed something, but I enjoy their work. And it's kind of funny how things have come about, because their latest project has just hit theaters. And I'm talking about Elizabeth Moss.
Ooh. I like that idea. Give her a chance to do the gritty cop thing.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously in the whole police squad setting, so it would be completely lost on everybody but the viewer, but I like it.
I do too.
I like it. Because, yeah, she can do the hardcore serious stuff, obviously.
Right.
You don't even have to just watch the damn commercials for The Handmaid's Tale.
Right.
Because you only have to have read that book to. I can't. Oh man, that's a tangent and a half right there. But
Right.
that is a brutal story, and I could never imagine watching a TV show based on that. I mean, why would I do that to myself? It's such a horrible thing. It's a great book, don't get me wrong, but it's a horrible story. It is. I mean, that's. Anyway, I'm gonna stop because, like I said, tangent.
Right. Well, I've enjoyed her work since West Wing.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I first took notice of her, was on the West Wing.
Mm-hmm. Because she
Of
did a
course,
great job in that role.
yeah, and then of course being on Mad Men and then like you said, Handmaid's Tale, and so it just
Well, and she's the one in the upcoming Invisible Man movie, right?
which is out. It just came out
Oh, did it?
as we're recording this weekend. Yeah,
Okay.
that's that was kind of what I was alluding to. Yeah, it's out now, and
I have not watched from what I have seen of that. That's I think that's a really, if they're doing what I think they're doing, it's a really interesting take on that story.
it is a very interesting take. Yeah,
I like it. I'm very curious about that one. But yeah,
so,
this is a good choice. I like
Yeah.
her, and I like the idea.
yeah. Okay, next, Mikey.
Okie dokie. So next we have Ted Olson, who Dr. Olson is the kind of the science advisor on the show. He's the guy that they go to when he's kind of the forensics guy. I mean, kind of before that was a thing on TV, and
Right.
now they're all forensics people. But back in 1982, no, that wasn't something that got addressed a whole lot. I mean, you had Quincy, but that was as close as you got, really. That was as close to the gory details as anybody ever wanted to get. And so with Ted, this is one where I may have stretched a little bit, but I think this could be a really fun role for the right actor, and I went with Luis Guzman.
Oh,
I mean, and
Okay.
he's the one on my list who's done some comedy. Not gonna lie, but
Yeah.
he's also done some really good dramatic stuff, and it would be fun to see him kind of meet the two in the middle here
Yeah,
and be the science guy.
I like it.
as do I. Yeah.
Okay, Les.
For me, I chose a man who's already played a science man on television. And I know he is a comedian, strictly, really. And that is Bob Newhart. Just so he can give his deadpan humor to both the characters and to the watcher of the television show.
I like it.
I know it's cheap, but that's where I was going for that one.
No, that's fine.
That would be awesome.
I love it.
That would be that would just be too good. Yeah. I mean, ultimately, what you want in this series is a whole cast full of Bob Newharts anyway. So,
Right.
I mean, we might as well go straight to the source here.
Okay, for my choice, I was thinking because I remember Ted not only having to spout out all this sciencey stuff and trying to explain things to Drebin, but as soon as they were done, he would turn and he would have a kid there and kind of doing what I've referenced to in the pre-show was a Mr. Wizards thing, where it's kind of just hey, science is fun and try to explain things and kind of that kind of thing. So I thought of someone who has kind of done the scientist. He's kind of talked the jargon. He can do the deadpan. He's done humor, although he's not known for it, but he's done parts for it. I went with Brent Spiner.
Oh man, that would be awesome.
It's coming in from the right field online.
That would be great.
It would be great, and he would love it. I bet he would love doing that.
Oh, that would be so cool. Especially if he could
agree.
drop a couple of data lines in there, just sort of nonchalantly.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that would be great.
Yeah, a couple of data jokes or Star Trek references that only some the fans would actually get, that kind of thing. That would be great.
That would be awesome. I like it.
I do too.
Okay.
Alrighty, next up, we got Johnny the Snitch. So here's the trick. This is one that I tried to get a little creative with,
Right.
because the whole idea of Johnny the Snitch in the 1982 series was that he was a major throwback character.
Mm-hmm.
That was a character. That was the kind of snitch type character that you would. And I did air quotes there. I'm not sure why. It's a freaking sound recording. But he was the kind of guy you'd expect to see like in a bad '60s police procedural movie. He was. I mean, he's in the perfect situation for that type of character in that throwback time frame. Um, and the guy, it was a great role. I love those. Every one of those scenes is awesome. But this is 2020, and so we have to somehow update this a little bit. And I don't want to go all the way to the sniveling drug dealer who's now an informant for the cops type idea.
Yeah.
But I did want to go with someone who was a little more kind of in tune with modern, the modern police show, if not actual modern policing. But my choice is more in terms of the modern police show. And this would be an interesting role for him because I haven't seen him in a while. But I picked David Caruso for this because we're not talking about straight up Johnny the Snitch. We're talking about somebody who's kind of someone in the neighborhood who knows a lot of things. In a different. I mean, he's not the shoeshine boy. I mean, obviously, but I almost want to think more in terms of. I don't know. I want to say Huggy Bear was kind of in the back of my head as I was thinking about this.
Okay.
Not exactly like that, obviously, but kind of a modernized version of it.
Right.
Maybe not like, I mean, the kind of guy who you could see in a kingpin type role, like a crime lord type role, but he's clearly not a crime lord. Maybe he kind of thinks he is or something. It could be fun. But I mean, somebody with the kind of the presence of David Caruso could pull that off, and it would be really interesting. And he just does that straight man thing so well. It would be fun to see him do it in an actual comedy. Give him a chance to kind of parody himself a little bit in a way. I feel like I had to explain that a lot, but anyway, whatever.
No, that's. I mean, I like that. I like that.
I think that's a good choice too.
So, all right, Les.
I went with comedians, so I'm not really going to venture into this too far. But William Sanderson, to me, can play somebody in the know. He was that in Batman. Played Bob the Goon.
Mm-hmm.
But he was also an idiot on Newhart. There was a second reference to Newhart there.
I was going to say, somebody found some Newhart reruns recently. Jeez. Hey, and I ain't knocking it. It's a great show.
No, yeah, I totally agree.
But that's where I ventured.
See, and you say this, his role in Blade Runner.
Well, that's true.
Think if he could channel that, that would be perfect for this.
Right.
It really would. So yeah, I'm down.
Yeah. When I was doing this and kind of pulling the curtain back to our audience, when I put together these casting calls and throw these out to the guy and say, hey, here's the cast, I generally, for the most, like 99% of the time, I put no guidelines. So I leave it to how anybody wants to do this. I'm saying that because when I was thinking about Johnny Snitch, I was still thinking about doing this show as a parody of the 70s cop show. So Johnny wouldn't necessarily be a shoeshine boy, but kind of that throwback like Mike referred to earlier. And I'm sorry, there was one name that popped up because I thought he was great in the role in the Ant-Man films. There's your hint right there. I went with Michael Pena.
I thought about him too, honestly. I'm not gonna lie.
Because I thought of him when I started thinking about this. I was like, him kind of doing that role in a way would be for a show like this would be great.
Totally. Absolutely. Yeah, like I said, I thought about him too, and yeah. This is the role he'd have to be in if he was in this show.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay.
Alrighty. Last guy on the list. Al. I am not sure if we ever find anything out more about this guy than his name is Al. And he's really tall. Because in the original series, you basically never see him above like armpit level. He's the really tall guy standing behind them, and he's cut off basically at the shoulder, and you never see his face or anything. And there's usually just sort of some random gag dealing with his height in the process somewhere along the line.
Right.
Not gonna lie, I'm not exactly sure how this would translate into a modern TV show. But I figured first season, you plan to start off with him first season just because what the hell, it was fun. There's plenty of off or outside of camera shot gags that you can pull with it. You can keep it going for a while. And in terms of who's going to play this role, I'm not sure it's going to take any special talent. I mean, if you found somebody with a special talent, that would be great. But I'll admit I went a little hometown with this one, and thought of the tallest person I could think of who as of recently isn't really doing anything else. I actually picked Dirk Nowitzki for this because what the hell? He's tall and he's unemployed right now, and what the hell? It would be fun to see. I mean, he's not an actor by any stretch of the imagination, and as becomes brutally clear in the Mavericks championship celebrations, he ain't a singer either. So maybe we could do something with him on a karaoke night or something. I don't know, but yeah, I thought. I mean, unless you find somebody specifically tall with a specific talent other than playing basketball, I mean, why not?
I love it. That's great. Okay, Les.
Okay, I looked online and I did not see a listing for Al, so I was at a loss.
Okay.
This was a series I did not watch when it came out, so I got nothing.
Okay, that's fine.
But I do like Mike's idea.
It was nothing more than a running gag. He'd show up for maybe 2 minutes, maybe a minute, 2 at the most, on every episode. And like Mike said, it was there would be some joke due to the fact that you can't see his face. I remember.
Yeah, there was one joke about something about you recently changed your hairstyle or something.
Right.
And you can't see him, so you don't know what they're talking about. And he makes there's some comment about it, and it's funny, but.
Yeah. Well, there's another reference where he shows up and he's like eating a banana, and I forgot who it was. It says there's something on the side of your mouth. And he you could see him kind of rub, and he's like, no, on the other side, and next thing you know, you see half the banana kind of fall down. So, I mean, it was just kind of running gags like that.
It's an off-camera gag thing. It's
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, they obviously didn't do it for the movies, so
Right.
it would be difficult to pull off consistently. But what the hell?
Yeah, I mean, it was just a different animal for the films. But for my choice, you know, I went with Carol Strucken.
Oh, uh-huh.
I mean, if you're familiar with the Addams Family movies, he was in a couple episodes of Star Trek, The Next Generation, and all that. So
Yeah, tall actor.
tall actor.
Yep. Yeah, he was in the 90s.
Yeah.
Addams Family movies. He was
Yeah.
Lurch. I mean, so
Yeah.
obviously tall
Right.
actor, but yeah.
Right.
Yep.
I didn't even think about us trying to cast Abraham Lincoln.
I think you still have to have that's still Rex Hamilton, whatever you do.
That's true. And for those who've not watched the show, that's one of the gags. They do the cast, announcing the cast and all that. And they go Rex Hamilton as Abraham Lincoln. That's the only time you see him in the episode. It's just the opening credits,
and it's the same clip every week. So
yes,
yeah, him pulling out a snub nose 38 and shooting back.
Shooting back at who we think is probably
from the balcony at the theater. Yeah, absolutely. I think it might be interesting, and I wish I'd thought of this before just now, but I think it might be interesting to come up with a list of the special guest stars.
Yeah.
Because they had someone different every week, and the gag, spoiler alert, the gag was they die, and they get announced in the opening credits, and it's just basically a little 10-second death scene for that actor.
And yeah, I mean you see them literally die in opening credits, and they're never in the episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious because they all they die a different way every week, so it's really kind of funny, especially since it's so fast.
Yep. Oh wow, I did not realize that. Okay, we talked about Rex Hamilton, who played Abraham Lincoln in the opening credits. He was also Abraham Lincoln in the episode of Star Trek.
Oh, is the same guy?
It is the same actor.
I did not know that either. That's insane.
That is very insane.
I like it.
And because I did, well, I guess it depends on who you believe. But they got a picture. If that's true, then that's awesome. May have to dig into this a little bit. We'll get back to you later on this. Another great list. I love the choices. This was fun as always.
Yep, and see, this is why it's good that you don't give us any direction, is because we always come at it from different angles, which makes it more fun.
Exactly.
Okay, it was not the same actor. So the internet lied. Surprise, surprise.
I know, shocking. Two guys dressed up as Abraham Lincoln are not the same person. Oh my god.
Yeah.
That would have been awesome, though.
That would have been great, but no. Now, the gentleman who played Abraham Lincoln in the Star Trek episode The Savage Curtain was Lee Berriger. So, if anybody was interested in knowing, but there you go. But he turned around and played Lincoln again, essentially 10 years later, in a TV miniseries. So, but there you go.
Typecast.
Oh well. Alrighty. That's fun. I hope everybody out there enjoyed that. If you've not had the chance to watch this show, I highly recommend it. I mean, it's 6 episodes, 20-something minutes an episode. I mean, 3 hours. It's worth your time. It's worth it. I still laugh at the show. I mean, I hadn't watched it in a while, but the last time I watched it, I still laugh at it. It was a funny, well-written show. It just, at the time, and people weren't ready for something like that.
Yep, there's a thing on the Wikipedia page about it that basically Matt Groening said exactly that. He's like, it was just people just weren't ready for it yet. Obviously, if it had been made 10 years later, or I forget how many years he said, but if it had been made a few years, 20 years is what he said. It would have been a big hit, but yeah. So now, I mean, it could be made to work today, for sure.
Yeah.
Just to be a matter of getting the right writers in there.
Yeah.
Especially if they follow our casting.
Well, absolutely. That's a given.
Of course. Yeah. Okay. Any final thoughts before we take a break?
No, yeah, just track this thing down if you can. I mean, I'm pretty sure Amazon has it.
Who knows? The episodes may be up on YouTube or some other streaming services.
Could be. It's totally worth it.
Yep.
As you said.
Yep. Okay, we're going to take a quick break and come back with our weekly picks. And we're back, and it's time for our weekly picks, and leading off this week is Mike.
Yeah, I'm leading off, and I am leading off with a trade, actually, from IDW Publishing. And this is the Volume 1 trade for Star Pig. This was a fun series. It is the story of a 16-year-old girl in a not too distant future setting. She's traveling to space camp, which is actually in space, which is a great place to have a space camp, I think. That's just smart right there. But anyway, there's a bit of an accident on the shuttle that is taking her to the space camp, and the shuttle gets kind of ripped apart, and she gets thrown clear in space, which sounds like certain doom, but she gets rescued by a very interesting character who I don't want to spoil too much about it. But the character is very interesting, and there are some adventures that take place because of all of this. And she gets to meet a whole lot of interesting people that she otherwise would never have met before. And like I said, it is a very cool story. There's lots of fun interaction between a lot of these characters. And honestly, the premise alone, I think, is just fun enough to pick it up for that anyway. But yeah, it's definitely worth checking out.
Cool.
Very cool.
Alrighty, I am next, and for my first choice, it's a new book from Marvel entitled Star Wars Bounty Hunters. And this happens to focus on 3 particular bounty hunters. It's Boba Fett, of course,
Yeah.
Bosk, and Valance, which I am so happy that they brought Valance into the new canon, because this was a character that was introduced in the original run. He made a couple appearances before he was killed off. So it was so cool because he's a cyborg. He was a robot-hating cyborg. So, or at least that's how he was in the original version. So this story has the 3 of them getting revenge against Valance's mentor. So, come on, it's bounty hunters, it's tales of revenge, it's Star Wars. It's got to be cool.
Yeah.
I agree.
Can't argue with that.
Yeah. Alrighty. Les, you're next.
My first choice comes from Dark Horse. It, too, is a trade paperback. It is called Machine Gun Wizards. I spoke of this one several months ago. In it, you have Elliot Ness and the Untouchables working against the criminals, but Al Capone isn't dealing in alcohol, but in magic. So this collects the 4-issue series. So it's got things that I really enjoy: the crime, fantasy, and blood. So yeah, I'm wanting this one myself.
And history on top of that. I mean, gosh.
True. Yeah.
Yeah, I've read that series, and it was a really interesting story. It was really cool. I liked it.
Alrighty. Mike, you're up again.
Okie dokie. My second pick is from Action Lab. This is from their Danger Zone line. Before you get any ideas, because the title of it is Sweetheart. This is issue number 1. And this is the story kind of a town that is essentially kind of a feeding ground for a group of creatures, basically is the word they use to describe it, and that's probably because they don't want to get into too much description because spoileries. But so when the son of one woman disappears in this town, she decides she's had enough, and she wants to know what's really going on. And this is, I mean, like I said, this is Action Lab's Danger Zone line, so there's usually a lot of horror in this. This has got a mature rating on it. I think it just sounds like fun. There's some interesting Twilight Zone-y twist possibilities in this thing that just look cool to me.
Yeah. Yeah, this caught my attention as well.
Yeah, I like the sound of it.
Okay, I'm up again, and for my second choice, I'm going with a new series from Image Comics called Stealth. And Stealth is actually the name of a superhero who, for several years, fought crime in Detroit, but all of a sudden, he's become a loose cannon. And only one person knows why this is happening, and it's a reporter. And the reason why he knows the situation is because Stealth is the reporter's father. And Stealth is also battling Alzheimer's.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I do like the sound of it.
That's very interesting.
So, in the synopsis says, a father unwilling to accept he's no longer the hero the city needs, with enemies all too eager to force his retirement. According to this, it's created by Robert Kirkman and Mark Silvestri. It's written by Mike Costa, and art by Nate Bellegrade and Tamara Bonavillian.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good backing.
Yeah. Yeah, this definitely caught my attention. I can't wait to read it.
Yep, that does sound good.
Alrighty, Les.
My second choice comes from Aftershock Comics, written by John Lehman and art by Carl Mozart. This is The Man Who Effed Up Time, number 2. This is a comedy, and it's obviously science fiction. This one I would say would appeal to Mike, because in this they are speaking of the butterfly effect, and the main character, the time traveler, has to fight his most dangerous adversary, himself. So you get the story folding in on itself, and I'm sure it's going to start folding out again too. But just the science fiction part has got me going. I'm ready for this one.
Yep. It's always fun when get real when it comes to time travel. Because they so very rarely do. But anyway, I'm not going to go there.
Alrighty, Mikey.
Okay, since we're Lizless, we're all doing 3 picks. So my third pick is from IDW. Apparently, I went IDW happy this week. But anyway, this one I picked because I think it would be a really great way to introduce yourselves to British comics if you have not done so. Sometimes it can be a little tough to get hold of that stuff, but this here you've got an American publisher putting out kind of a nice collection. This is the Judge Dredd 100-page giant. This is 100 pages of Judge Dredd comics for $6.
Nice.
And yeah, I mean, I don't know that needs any more to selling. I mean, just if you've ever been curious, if you've ever seen or heard anything about the movies or whatever, go pick up something like this and take a look and see what there's there, because it is something to be experienced for sure. It's great stuff.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm excited about this one as well. Okay, so for my third choice, I am picking a trade from DC Comics. And I'm pretty sure this has never been... If it's been collected before, it's been a long time ago. This is Just Imagine Stan Lee Creating the DC Universe, Book 1. Now, if you're not familiar with this, back in the early 2000s, I guess DC reached out to Stan Lee and said, hey, we're offering you the opportunity to take control of our characters, and how would you have created them? So essentially, he come up with the stories of the origins for characters such as Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Flash, the Justice League, all of them. And this is the first, I guess, one of 2 books probably. This includes creating Green Lantern, creating JLA, creating Wonder Woman, creating Batman, creating Superman, and creating Flash. And you have the likes of Dave Gibbons, Jerry Ordway, Jim Lee, Joe Kubert, John Buscema, Kevin McGuire, Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, Gene Colan, on and on and on, doing the art. And in some cases, they wrote stories as well. I remember a lot of these being really, really good, so I would love the opportunity to check these out again, because it's been a while.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is good stuff, and those were pretty strong stories.
Alrighty, Les.
My third choice comes from DC Comics, and I'm just bringing this forward because the 80-page annual is coming up for Robin, and to set this up, DC is coming out with 3 $1 comics with various Robins. You've got Batman number 428, which was The Death in the Family. You've got Detective Comics number 38, which is the first appearance of Robin. And you've got Robin number 1 from 1991, which is kind of the intro of, is that Tim?
That's Tim.
So you've got 3 different Robins to cover and get you ready for that big annual.
Yep, that's to celebrate Robin's 80th anniversary. Anniversary.
Anniversary, yeah.
Yep.
That's
easy for me to say.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, you got Dick Grayson, you got Jason, and you got Tim. That's pretty cool.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
I did notice that they didn't have Damien. Thank God.
Well, maybe not this month. Maybe not this week. Who knows? They may have Damien, and they may have Stephanie, and may have do one for Karen.
Carrie, yeah.
Carrie, yeah.
Yeah, they should do that. Because they listen to me all the time, you know.
Well, cause I know one of the variant covers, because of course they're doing the same thing. The variant covers for every decade, and there was one that has all of them on there. So you do have Jason, you do have Tim, you do have Damien, you do have Carrie, you do have Stephanie. I'm like, that's awesome. That's awesome. They did that.
Yeah.
So cool picks all around. I do want to take this opportunity that if you want to go back and check our previous week's picks or take a look at these picks again, we do have a page on our website now. It's been up for about 2 months now. You just go to www.thefellowshipofgeeks.net and either look at the first page. You'll have the most recent 4 weeks picks, but there's also a picks tab, and you can see the last 8. So, I mean, of course, we always put them in our show notes, but you can't remember which one it is. You can probably just skim through these. It'll be quicker. So
quick and easy reference.
Yep. So there you go. Okay, good stuff. Any special shout-outs this week?
No, don't think so.
Nothing here.
Okay. Obviously, the get well soon, Liz, and hopefully we'll have you with us next week.
Yeah.
Yes.
That one.
Yeah, that one. We'll move on to our regular shout-outs. First, want to thank Pop Goes the Culture Podcast Network for allowing us to be part of a great group of shows. We'll have a link in the show notes for you to kind of check out some of their fine work. Thank you guys, as always. Also want to thank the fellow brothers and sisters of podcasts on Twitter, known as the Pottern Family, for spreading the word of the fellowship. We definitely want you to go check out their work. Easiest way to do that is do a search, hashtag Pottern Family, one word, and just scroll through, and whatever catches your attention, by all means, click on that link and download that episode and knock yourselves out. Hopefully you have a blast listening to them. Also want to thank Manny the Martyr for supplying the music to our podcast. Definitely check out their music. We'll have a link in the show notes as well. And finally, you, dear listener, thank you for downloading and listening to today's episode. We always appreciate your support and value your feedback. If you have a comment, question, a suggestion, complaint, observation, what have you, by all means, send them our way. There are several ways you can do that. Our email address is email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. Or you can go to the website and click on the About Us page. There's a contact form you can fill out there. As previously mentioned, we have a Facebook page. Please follow us there. And we're obviously on Twitter @FellowshipGeeks. If you'd like to follow our personal Twitter accounts, by all means. Mike can be found @MikeyGeek. Liz can be found @LN_geek. And I can be found @TomTCGeek. And from wherever you download or listen to our episodes, if you could take a couple of moments to rate and review our show, it would be greatly appreciated. Any final thoughts before we say goodbye?
Just thanks, everybody.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening. Once again, we do appreciate your support as always. And until next time, geek on, my friends.
We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email at thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook at The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. Until next time,